Welcome back. In case you've just joined us, it's economics, and we're doing the secular model flow. Just before the break, or the ad break, or the short break, we looked at the important role that government plays in the secular model flow. So we're just going to carry on and discuss what else the government does in terms of the secular flow. So the government provides public goods and services to households and firms. So we did chat about that just before the break, and we said it's important because we get infrastructure, we get public school services, we get healthcare services from the government, and also businesses benefit because there's infrastructure, they are able to conduct business, there are roads to transport goods around the country. So the service that government provides in terms of public goods and services is very important. And now the unexhausted or unspent part of the household and firm's income and is saved in the financial sector of the economy. So let's say you were working, you had a part-time job and they were paying you 100 Rand, okay? And you decide to spend 50 Rand from that, okay? And then obviously you'll be left with 50 Rand. So that is what we are referring to, the unexhausted or unspent part of the households and firms' income is then saved. And then you decide to save this. This will be done in the financial sector. Your banks will be a platform where you can actually save your money. So we call that savings, okay? So it's important that we have savings. They help to control the inflation as well. We will discuss that later on, that the more we save, and then we are in a better position to control the inflation rate as well. So the money invested by firms and household is known as savings. So if you decide to invest this will be known or will be referred to as savings. Now, I must say, if you're doing economics, you know how important saving is because we encourage, when we look at savings, we encourage people to save and not just spend, because savings also play an important role in making sure that we've got a stable economy. So we do encourage households and businesses to save where possible. Okay, so we're going to move right along to the next point. So I'm just going to pull this up. Okay, so the funds received by the financial sector, so now we're looking at the financial sector and we're looking at the funds that are received by the financial sector are used by firms or businesses to purchase infrastructure for the production of goods and services. So let's say you've got a wonderful idea that you want to start your business, you have a business, you want to manufacture a product. You will then have to approach the people in the financial sector or the financial sector in order for you to get money to purchase infrastructure in order for the production of goods and services to take place. So the financial sector also plays a very important role in the economic cycle of the economy as well. Okay, so moving on to the next point. This flow of money from the financial sector for the use by the firms is known as investment. And obviously, when you purchase infrastructure or the capital goods, you're purchasing them with the intention of generating an income. So you will be making products and you are going to sell those products in order for you to generate an income in order to survive and to generate sales. So that will be known as an investment that is made by the people in the firms or in the business sector. Okay, so now moving on, what is the difference between real money and flow between real money and money flows in the circular flow model. Before I go into this, I would like just to tie up the discussion that we've just had regarding the different participants and how they interact with one another in the circular flow model. Okay, so it's important for you to note the interdependence that exists between the different participants, that actually they do need one another in order to keep going or in order to function. So the firms will need the financial sector, the financial sector will need the government, the households will need the government to provide public goods and services. So now we move on to our next point, where we're looking at real money and also money flows in the circular flow model. So a real flow refers to the flow of goods and services from firms to households, the flow of factors of production from households to firms, and the public goods provided by government. So a couple of things that we're looking at in this point, and I would really like us to spend a bit of time just getting more clarity and going over this. Okay, so now let's start with the goods and services. We know that households need goods and firms are there to manufacture goods, or because firms are also known as producers in the circular flow model. Also, we're looking at the flow of factors of production from households, because earlier on we said the household will provide the factors of production to the firms. For example, labor. So if you want to make a product, you're going to need people with certain skills and expertise in order to do that. So the households will play an important role in that regard. And also the public goods that are provided by government. We've just chatted about them, that they play a very important role, and that's safety and that's education as well. So this is referred to as a real flow. So what is a money flow then? Okay, so there's a money flow over here. So now we're looking at the money flow, which is in the opposite direction of the real flow, and refers to the flow of money between the different economic participants. For example, remuneration received by households in the forms of wages, rent, interest, and profit, sales revenue to firms, and taxes paid to government. Okay, so if we go back over here and we look at what we were referring to earlier on in terms of the real flow. So we're looking at the flow of goods over here. And then with the money flow, we're looking at the flow of money. So we're not focusing on the goods and services, but the big focus over here is on the money, how it flows between the different economic participants that we find in the circular flow. Okay, so here we're looking at the economic participants, and we're looking at things like wages, rent, interest and profit, sales revenue to firms, and the taxes that's paid to government. So it is going in an opposite direction of real flow, and it specifically refers to the flow of money between the different economic participants. So it is important that you are able to distinguish between the two flows that we find in a circular flow model. Then I'm going to move on to looking at leakages and injections in the circular flow. And I've got this nice diagram or picture just to help you to remember when you are dealing or are studying this particular section. So you know that this is not good, okay, because we have a water crisis and we encourage people to save water. Okay, so, but when we see the drops, leaving and they are not being put or not being kept or preserved, it's a worrying factor for us. So I thought if we use this image, it will be a good reminder when you are asked a question around this. Okay, so what is the difference between the two? Okay, so when we look at a leakage, we're looking at money leaving the economy. That's not good because we try and retain the money in our economy. But you know, it's sometimes beyond our control, and we find that there are instances where money does leave the economy. So how does money leave the economy? I know you're sitting there at home and say, yeah, you know, it's good for us to keep everything here at home. I fully agree with you. But, you know, like I said earlier on, sometimes, you know, it does happen that the money leaves the economy, and that's not a good thing for us because we want our money to stay and be used to grow our economy. So this can happen in the following. So through savings. So savings will result, so if we have savings over here, that could result in people investing in or saving their money in offshore accounts. Through taxes, they could be direct or indirect, and imports as well. Okay. So when we look at a formula for the leakages, it's basically savings plus taxes and plus imports as well. Okay, so remember when you are dealing with this question, always remember this little picture that we have over here, that this refers to money leaving the economy. And then injections. Okay, I know some of you, when you go to see a doctor, this is your worst nightmare when they pull the syringe out and you think, oh, I'm going down. So when we do an injection, so we insert, so when we talk about a cash injection, it means that we had to insert cash into the economy, or when they say a company, a parastatals or a state-owned enterprise had to be given a cash injection. For example, the national airline, they often go to Treasury for a cash injection, so money going into the economy. But in that example, we're looking at it as a company, but to give the economy a boost, sometimes we have to do an injection. That means money going into the economy. So the different types, so this could be through investments. Okay, so I'm going to put it up again. So it can be done through investments. Okay, so if there's foreign investment into the country, that's very good. And hence we say, you know, it's important. We know that foreign countries are, you know, sometimes a bit skeptical, you know, investing in the African context or space because of the different socioeconomic issues that are happening. So that sometimes is a challenge, but we always say, you know, that, you know, a country like South Africa is really a country that's open for opportunities. So we really do and encourage investors to come and invest in our country. And also this could be done through government expenditure when an SOE is in need of an extra cash injection. So the government could also be responsible for bringing money into the economy. Exports, that's really good when we sell our goods to foreign countries and they pay us money. That's money coming into the economy. That's a good sign because that money is going to help us to grow our economy and to have more economic activity happening in our economy. So the formula for the injections there is then investments, plus government expenditure and also imports. So that would be our formula when we are looking at the injection or the injections that happen in the economy. And now let's look at the concept of an equilibrium, because you do this in business subjects and not just in economics. So even if you do business studies, or you when you were doing EMS back in grade 8 and 9, you would have dealt with this concept of an equilibrium. So equilibrium, it's where you have a balance between two items. So here we say the economy is at a equilibrium when your leakages are equal to your cash injection, or when your injection is equal to your leakage. So there's a balance between these two items. So there isn't an imbalance where the other one is higher than the other or the other one is lower than the other. So when we refer to a point of equilibrium, we are referring to when the injections are equal to your leakages in an economy or in an economic system. And then we also have this interesting concept of disequilibrium that happens. So this will happen when your leakages are more than your injections, or when your injections are more than your leakages in your or in the economy. And this picture over here gives us a nice illustration of that particular situation. So if there's more leakages here and less injections, that has caused a disequilibrium. Or if there are more injections over here and less leakages over here, that also results in us sitting with a disequilibrium. The ideal situation would be us to have an equilibrium where we have a balance between injections and our leakages as well. So that's what we strive for, but we don't often, that is often not the case. There are situations where this happens when there is, more than the other or less than the other, and then that will cause a disequilibrium in the economy. Okay, so those are very important concepts that you need to be aware of in case they ask you in a multiple choice question. Just be aware of the terminology because it will be quite useful, I must say. All right, and then now we're just going to sum up what we have learned in this lesson. And we've done quite a nice summary for you to look at the concepts that we have covered in this lesson. So in this lesson, we covered the following concepts. We looked at the secular flow model, the continuous flow of spending, production, and income between different sectors. And we spoke briefly about spending, the importance of spending, production, and income as well. We also looked at the concept of a closed economy. So what is a closed economy? This is an economy that has no foreign sector as a participator. Okay, so it's closed because there's no foreign sector in the economy. So just be aware of that because that is a very important point that you need to be aware of. So just make sure that you know what a closed economy is, because now I'm going on about this secular model of an open economy. And then in case you might be sitting there at home and say, oh, but then what is a secular model of a closed economy? What does it look like? Well, at least now you have an idea of what it excludes. Right, because we've been dealing with an open economy, this means that this is an economy that trades with other foreign sectors as well. Okay, so it's not just us in a closed economy, but we've now included the foreign sector. We've looked at what a leakage is, money withdrawn from the secular flow. This could be done through savings, taxes, imports, expenditure, and then also we looked at injections as well, and that's the introduction of additional money into the economy by investment. And we all like that when there's a bit of investment happening, and that is a good sign to a healthy economy. Okay, so now we know what injections are, and then also we know what a leakage is. And then moving on to the equilibrium, the economic equilibrium. So we know that the economy is at equilibrium if leakages are equal to the injections, and we looked at the formula earlier on. Okay, and now that is a wrap of today's lesson. I trust that you found this lesson very helpful whilst you are preparing for your final exams, and keep on tuning to your favorite educational program, and catch you soon. Well, it's a wrap from me, and it's goodbye.